Okay, thank you, Ludo. So this session is, as you can see, maths anxiety and dyscalculia, the hows and the whys for tutors. So what I'm saying is that the hows and the how is how do we try and make things better for them, and the why is, well, kind of why do we need to. So we're going to be breaking into breakout rooms 3 times. You're going to be able to discuss things in small groups in those breakout rooms. We've got 60 minutes, which is nowhere near long enough to talk through something that's an incredibly complex subject, but hopefully it'll just give you the sort of tip of the iceberg, and it might help you decide that you would like to find out more about this. So let me just move that over there. Right. Okay. So we're going to try and get a better understanding of maths anxiety and dyscalculia. Hopefully by the end of the hour, you're going to have some strategies of how to do things in a more practical way that benefits lots of children, and how to sort of teach in a way that is sort of a safe and non-threatening way that helps decrease the maths anxiety that they might have. Okay. So first thing is that anyone can have maths anxiety, and that is something that we're going to be looking into as we go further through. That more children than you think will have maths anxiety. If we can deal with the anxiety first, if we can deal with that, then learning can take place. But if we don't deal with the anxiety and help quell the anxiety, no real learning can take place. And given that, the important thing for me is that given the right strategies, an anxious child can still succeed, still unlock their potential, still succeed. So we're really wanting, you know, that to happen. So first of all, just a very quick bit about myself. You may have seen it in the biogs. I've been in education for over 20 years. It was my second career. I was originally a mechanical engineer. I did an engineering degree. I've got QTS in primary. I've taught in state schools, independent schools, and I've tutored on and off for more than a decade. 2 years ago, I came out of the classroom for the final time, and I'm not ever going back. So that's a little bit about me. But I believe in sort of empowering children and trying to unlock their potential. I teach almost exclusively with children who have got maths anxiety for one reason or another, and many of them are neurodiverse. So I said, build on the positives, focus on the child as the centre. Their well-being is the most important thing, and then we move from there. So when I was trying to put this together, I realized that there's so much content that I just couldn't possibly fit into the hour. So I realized that actually last year I wrote 2 ebooks, one about maths anxiety and one about times tables, and I wrote these with parents in mind. They're written, you know, how to help your child, but actually, even if you aren't a parent yourself, as a tutor, hopefully you're going to be able to get some useful things in there. Now, I sent these through to Ludo, and he's managed to put them on the festival hub. Now, they're in the bit that says how to get in touch with Judy. So it's not in the bit where you might have found the breakout room print-offs. It's actually in the how to get in touch with Judy. So they're both in there. And, you know, obviously I recommend that you have a download them as the PDFs and have a look at them and see you're going to be seeing more of what we've been talking about today. So I also do sort of workshops that about how to use Cuisenaire rods, the manipulatives, to help to do particular things. So if you are interested, those are available to give you more than this tiny tip of the iceberg. And if you think you're really interested in finding out more about dyscalculia, I can really recommend the course that Steve Chin and Judy Hornigold run. And they run the UK Dyscalculia Association. They're both world experts in it, and I can personally recommend their level 3 and their level 5 courses to do with dyscalculia. Okay, so this is a graphic from, I think, some research by Pearson. So I'm just going to give you a moment just to have a look at these statistics, because they're really quite sobering. it's not good reading, is it, as to how many people have problems with maths anxiety. I mean, we've got the thing about the parents, you know, 1 in 4 parents aren't able to help. And then we've got onto the children, the children. So at the younger age, the Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 age, it's 10% of children have maths anxiety. I find that the scary bit is by the time that they've got to GCSE level and above, that's gone up to 36%. So it's really, really high. So this is from some original research that was published late 2019. It's a 30-page document. I really, really recommend that you read it. It's very sobering. It's written for class teachers. You know, it's written for sort of UK schools, but it's still, I think it's still really relevant for tutors. So it's got techniques in there, and I used quite a lot of some of the details in there when I was writing my ebook. So if we move on to excuse me, maths anxiety. So the first thing is that anyone, absolutely anyone, can have anxiety, maths anxiety. They don't need to have a specific learning difficulty, such as dyslexia or be neurodiverse. Absolutely anyone can, of any ability range. If something happens and they start to feel anxious, they can have maths anxiety. So the brightest, most able children, if they get anxious, they can still have maths anxiety. Now, I now sort of niched down into just teaching children who have maths anxiety. And a lot of them are neurodiverse. They do have a specific learning difficulty, but not all of them. Now, dyscalculia research is about 20 years, they say it's about 20 years behind dyslexia research. So if you think how hard it is to get help for a child with dyslexia, it's even harder to get help for a child who is suspected of having dyscalculia. So, you know, what is dyscalculia? The easiest way of saying is often saying it's dyslexia for numbers. Now, that's not completely true, but it is like one of the easiest ways of expressing that. So some of the flags that might flag up the child isn't just anxious about maths, that they actually have dyscalculia, is that at an age where you would expect them to have a good understanding of place value, so they could easily know that these are tens, these are hundreds. We multiply by 10. You know, where does the place value move to? If that doesn't really make any sense to them, that's one of the big flags for dyscalculia. We've also got that they can't estimate sort of magnitudes of things. They can't compare, can't put some counters down and necessarily be at them to see that there are more counters here than that there are here. So these are some of the things, and left and right and things like that are some of the basic flags for dyscalculia. It is a specific learning difficulty. It can come in conjunction with dyslexia and with any of the others, ADHD, dyspraxia, or autistic spectrum. Can be a lot of the time people have a combination of specific learning difficulties. So the difficulty is that primary maths is really over reliant on remembering things and remembering facts, known facts, recall. And children are like, I feel that they've got to be quick, I can't be quick, oh my God, I can't do it. And they go into like this sort of panic. And because it's all about that, they must remember these things and that they must remember them fast. Now, that's how it is at primary level. As you go on up, that becomes, thankfully, becomes less important. But maths is really affected more than any other subject by anxiety, and it's because the working memory and processing speed are so important for maths work. So the working memory of holding things in your head as you're doing it. So the whole idea of mental arithmetic. So you're hearing something, you're manipulating those numbers. That's using working memory. And then the processing speed is how quickly can you kind of really do that. Now, you'll have all heard of sort of fight and flight mode when, you know, going into a panic. But really with the maths, it's fight, flight and freeze. And the freeze is the really important thing. And because people freeze, and at that point, the sort of basic brain is trying to get you so that you can run away from the danger. Obviously you're not actually running away, but that's what it's trying to do. And so it does take away sort of, in effect, the sort of brain power away from the working memory and away from the processing speed. So the moment somebody's anxious, so if you can imagine a time when you were really put on the spot, I mean, it can be recent, it can be as a child, when you were really put on the spot and you just felt that overwhelming feel of panic just rising. And then things that you knew, things you can do, things you can normally do, you suddenly can't do. And then this is all linked in with this working memory and processing speed being diverted. And that's what's happening to a child every time when they're having sort of real moments of maths anxiety. So the problem is we end up into this this downward spiral. So the moment the anxiety has been triggered, we're into a downward spiral, and then at that point you're in the fight, flight, freeze, can't say it, and so your working memory is not going to be working as well as it can be on your best working memory. Your processing speed is not going to be working at the best, and so you panic more, and so we have this horrible downward spiral. So what we're going to be trying to do is find ways to not trigger the anxiety and to stop the anxiety as we're going through. So we're going to be trying to reduce anxiety. If we can reduce the anxiety, and then that will help us increase confidence. And as all this goes on, it will help them increase their resilience. And these are the basic things that we're going to be doing. So I'm just going to move on so we actually cover them in some detail. So for effective learning to take place, we need to reduce the anxiety level. And if we don't do that at the beginning, then that's when things, we aren't going to be able to help these anxious children. So they need to feel safe. And each time I say safe, I'm not talking about safeguarding safe. I'm meaning just feeling okay and comfortable and okay about things. So they need to feel that. They need to feel heard by you, that if they say something that they understand what's going on and they're happy about it. And we really need to, first of all, really be establishing a rapport. So if you're first starting to teach a new child, please don't give them a formal test. Please don't do that. Don't give them a SATs test or a GCSE paper or whatever as the very first thing that you do for them, because that will almost certainly trigger an anxiety spiral. So I'm not saying don't test them and don't assess them and don't find out what's going on, but don't present it to them in the format of a test. So a little bit later on, I'm going to be talking about diagnostic questioning. And, that's the kind of thing that you can do where you're showing them something, talking about something, and you're getting the idea of whether or not they can do it. But to them, it doesn't feel like a test. So I'm just going to ask you to, in a moment, to use your the smiley facey things that you've got on the I can't see it on mine now because I think it's because I'm sharing, I can't see it. But okay, so if you've seen or heard about the comfort zone, the growth zone model, which is this picture here, could you do a smiley face for me? I don't know whether any of you can get to the there is a smiley face, yeah, or a thumbs up, anything. That's fantastic. Thank you, Lucy. I can see that now. Yeah, so some of you had already heard about this idea. So it's there's lots and lots of research all about it. You can I talk about it in my anxiety ebook, and you can see all the original research if you Google growth zone model. So this is the idea that if the child is anxious, they're going to be in this red zone here. So that might be that they're just generally in the red zone, or that something's just happened that has started them into the spiral. So you present with them something and they're anxious about it. So what we need to be doing is the very first things we do in the very first sessions with these children is getting them into this comfort zone. Now, a comfort zone is where things feel okay. They don't feel threatening. They feel okay, and they feel happy. So this can be games. It can be sort of very low level content things that you do with them. And it's all about, while you're establishing the rapport with them and starting for them to start to trust you. So we're going to try and get this on board. So you're then going to be doing small activities where you're wanting to get them into the growth zone. This is the only zone really where new learning can take place. But if you then give them something that's too hard, it nudges them into the anxiety zone. So I'm just going to move on, and we're going to go off into the breakout rooms now for the first time. So we're going to go off for about 5 minutes. We're going to have a bit of a chat about what ages of children you teach. Do you teach any children that you already know have got maths anxiety? And then this middle question is all about sort of what sort of maths do you teach, and what do you feel about it, and what do you feel about yourself as a maths tutor? So Jack, if you could stick us into breakout rooms, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so Judy, thank you so much for that. Just as Jack is coming off, brilliant, wonderful. If you need any questions, then you can contact us at the bar below, but we'll see you in a second. I'm going to eat my bagel.
Can you believe it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon already?
So Judy's gone as well, has she, Jack?
Yeah, it looks like she has. I was kind of hoping I could put those questions on the broadcast.
Can you?
I don't know if they are. Have you got them?
I've got the thing. I'll do it.
Okay, thanks, Ludo.
Thank you, Jack.
Lovely.
So we're just waiting for the other breakout rooms to close. I think there's 17 seconds left.
Okay, thank you.
So brilliant. So we will, of course, hand back over to you, Judy.
Yep, thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome back, everyone.
Okay, so hopefully you've had a good chat about that. I'm just going to put onto this thing, we're going to just go a little poll now. So if you just teach GCSE and above, so you're really teaching, who you're teaching is exam classes, could you do a smiley face, a thumbs up or whatever on the reactions thing? That would be great. So I can see that sort of what proportion of people just teach the older children and just for exams. Okay, because that kind of does mean that you do things in a slightly different way. Okay, so if you only teach primary and key stage 2 and you don't teach any exams at all, you know, external exams, stick your thumbs up. So I'm just scanning between the screens. Lovely. Okay. And if you're like me and you teach every age, I mean, I don't advertise for GCSE anymore because I much prefer teaching the Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 children. But yeah, so if you are everybody, I'm just flicking through. Lovely. Okay, so actually that's quite a mix between of what people do. Now, for me, one of the questions was, do you consider yourself a mathematician? Now, I don't consider myself a mathematician at all, because I'm not the best person at maths at all. You know, I wasn't the best person in my class at school. I mean, I was good, but I wasn't brilliant. I went on and did engineering. I don't really think of myself as a mathematician, but for me, that's why I think I've gravitated towards teaching the children who don't find it particularly easy, because I'm able to be empathetic about, how they're feeling about it, because I did have maths anxiety myself as a child, on a couple of sort of occasions, particularly in one particular class year group when I was at primary school, due to the teacher doing things in the most horrific way, which I always promised myself when I became a teacher, that I would never ever be like Mrs. Hamilton, because she was horrific, and she made me, who was a confident, bright child, feel absolutely horrific about maths. So yeah, I think that sometimes it helps you sort of have a niche a bit. And if you are that sort of mathematician, you've studied maths yourself, you're really into maths, you might want to be teaching children who are the exam classes and are the sort of the bright ones wanting to do even better. Yeah. So, okay, so we'll move on. So we're on to the middle section now, which is all about being visual and practical. So the first thing to say is, for goodness sake, please use a video call. Please teach using Zoom or Skype or whatever, because you need to be able to see the micro reactions on facial reactions of the child as you're teaching them. You need to be able to see if the thing that you've just said or the thing that you're just showing has nudged them out of the growth zone or out of the comfort zone and straight into the anxiety zone. You need to be able to see that. And the other thing you need to do is you need to be using a good whiteboard, such as bit paper. The whiteboard on Zoom, it's just no good. In my opinion, is no good. So this is a screen grab from one of my bit papers. And you can see that I've been able to change the background color to a color that was suitable.
Judy, we're not seeing your screen share. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me, thank you very much for letting me know that. Beg your pardon, I think that's it. So sorry,
That's
right.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just click back. Yeah, there we go. That was, you should have seen the prompt. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this is a screen grab from my bit paper. I've been able to go to a color that's right for the child. Don't use bright white because it will hurt your eyes if you're tutoring for a long time, and it also it's no good for them. So this is a color that turned out to be the right color for them. And you're able to preload. And this is the thing about having a good bit paper, having a good whiteboard, is the fact you can preload all your stuff on there. So bit paper can have up to 100 pages, each page infinitely big, preload everything on. So I'll have like a different activity on each page, and some of them will be things that I know will help them feel comfortable. Other things I know will make them stretch them and nudge them into that sort of challenging zone. So bit paper or Miro. Now I know we've got a big Miro fan in the room with Lucy, who loves it. And for if you're teaching English as well, it is great because you can see them as they type. But whereas in bit paper, we can use the typing tool, this one down here, but until they press done and enter, you can't see what they've written. So if you're teaching maths, I personally much prefer bit paper. I do like Miro for other things, but okay. So we move on. So we've got to get the children as involved as possible. Now, I use a graphics tablet. I've got a pen, I've got a graphics tablet. I bought mine for £35 from Argos, and they're still available for that sort of price. You can buy, yes, Hazel's showing me hers in the window, thank you. You know, and it's a real game changer writing using the pen. And you know, on the bit paper, you know, I can write as well with my pen as I can write in real life. And I also suggest that my pupils get one as well. Now, for me, for my pricing, for a parent to buy the child, you know, a very entry-level graphics tablet, it's less than the price of one lesson. Now it depends on, you know, the prices of your lessons, but it means that the child can then be really involved, and that helps build confidence. I also suggest that pupils have their own manipulatives. So sorry, just reach them down from here. So I suggest that for me, my pupils, you know, have their own box of Cuisinart rods. I send things through to them so that they have PDFs, and then they print them off. So for example, we have these dice that have all sorts of spot patterns and things. I send them through, they print them off, they've got them, they're involved, they're doing the same thing as me, their end. I don't like worksheets, and I try not to use worksheets, but I try to preload all my content onto my bit paper. And I also think about what's the point of in each activity. Okay, so really useful thing to do is to really go for the concrete pictorial abstract, because so much is taught in the abstract. And if your child does have is neurodiverse and or has maths anxiety, teaching them in a concrete with actual manipulatives and the pictorial will make a real difference. Now, I like Singapore maths. I like White Rose maths. I know that sometimes if people are in school and they're shackled to one of what, you know, a particular scheme of work, and they're not allowed to deviate from it, they can feel that it's not right. But that's the beauty of being a professional tutor. You can choose how you teach and what you teach. So I pick the best bits from the things that are there. So I use a lot of bar modeling for my older children with doing algebra. I use algebra tiles and algebra discs. And as an anecdote, in the last couple of years, since I've been teaching with using these discs and tiles, the children who would have normally still found it really hard to do algebra because it's such an abstract thing, the moment it's in here in colours, they can actually understand why they can't add the x squared to the x. They're different colors, and it's visual, and it makes sense, and it's so good for them. So I really strongly recommend using those. I use MathSpot, which is free, and if you go into the manipulative section, all sorts of visual, you know, virtual manipulatives in there. So in there, they've got Cuisinart rods, they've got counters, they've got the base 10, they've got rec and recs, particularly like the rec and rec on there, because I share the screen through to the child rather than copying and pasting things over, because it's really nice for them to be able to flick the rec and rec over. Okay, so we need to be doing things so that they're very visual, and that will really help. So this is just an example of my color coding writing, where we have got this black is the original question, the blue is me with my extended method there, and then the green is my thinking. And this is kind of how I will model things with the children, of doing them in different colours. They don't need to be the same colours every time. And often, you know, I do one question in one colour, and then we might do something else in a different colour. But you can actually, the moment you look at this now, you can see what was the original question, what was the things. And this is the bit that goes on in your head, and gradually you wouldn't be writing it. And I model answers, and because I've got the pen, and hopefully they've also got the pen as well, they're able to be so much more involved, and we're able to get through by me modeling and also me scribing quite a lot, we're able to get through a lot more content. And then because they practiced a lot, that helps bring down the anxiety. Well, it helps raise the confidence level because they've done lots and lots of examples. Okay, so I've got a lot of things to do with how to help your own child with times tables in the ebook. These are just some of the takeaway points from this. So really is to take out the timed element. So don't say, here's a load of questions, see how many you can do in a minute. That puts them under pressure. That will set them into the anxiety spiral. Give them plenty of thinking time. Now, you can tell by the way I speak a million miles an hour, and I have to consciously go and breathe, Judy, because I have to remember to give them space to think, because otherwise I will just babble and I have to remember not to. So you must give them thinking time, because they're likely to need more thinking time than an average child. And particularly that it's not about speed or methods, it's about getting to the correct answer. Now, those of you who teach to A-level and GCSE, you know that it's actually getting the right answer that matters, and it's not how quick they can do and can they do it all in their head. No, you're wanting them to show method. But for younger children, they think they have to be fast because that is what is rewarded in primary school under the current system. So just make them know that it's okay to take their time. So definitely make it practical. Use counters and arrays, use pictures, use songs. As I say, it's all, lots of stuff is all in the ebook. These are my Cuisenaire, I never know how to say it, rods that are in this box here. And I use a second downward facing camera, which is my old telephone. And I use it on a gooseneck stand that sort of goes like this. And I use a thing called Droid Cam. And this is an Android app that enables you to join and use it. You can either join it have it joining through as an extra person in the room if you have got paid Zoom, or if you have free Zoom, you might just want to you can do it as a share screen. So I do workshops on how to use the Cuisenaire rods to do times tables, to do number bonds, all this kind of thing, but they're very, very visual. This is one of my pupils. He has a downward facing camera as well. He needed to find out what the 7 fives were. He got out his 5s, he laid them out. Yeah, he does reverse his numbers. You probably spotted that. So he's put them into what I call a snake. So he's got his 7 yellow ones going along there, and then he's worked out how many that is in terms of his orange 10s and how many more, and he worked out it's 35. By doing things practically, it helps with confidence, and it's very visual, very, very practical. Very good for finding factors and things as well. So all of that, as I say, lots of things are also in the times table book. So we have such a short time. I want us to get to the breakout room. So I want you to think about what topics you already teach in quite a visual and practical way. Have a chat through this with the other people in the room. And if there's things that you think you might be able to teach, a little bit more visually from now on. So if we could go into the breakout room for about 5 minutes, that'd be great. Thanks, Jack.
When Judy's leaving it, even this bit's the juicy bit.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest,
If it's all juicy, then
basically it should. Whoever planned it as an hour messed up. Should have been 2 hours.
it should have been 2. Maybe we'll continue this on Clubhouse. Judy.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully everyone's back.
We've got about 30 seconds left of the timer, Judy. So if we just
okay,
about 15 seconds so that everyone catches this bit that you're about to say.
Okay, I'll try to. Actually, I need to remember to share my screen again, don't I? Because it takes it off that. Yeah. There we go. We're back on there. I didn't make the same mistake twice. I try really hard never to make the same mistake twice. Can't guarantee that I won't. Okay. So the last section is actually the smallest section, but we'll hopefully in your breakout rooms, you've come up with some ideas of things that you could actually, well, yeah, I don't do that visually very often, but actually I could. So I mean, hopefully you've sort of come up with things. So our last little section, I just want to try and get through this so that we could possibly have a discussion at the end, is about the idea of doing safe methods. Now, again, this isn't to do with like safeguarding safe. It's feeling safe, feeling happy, feeling comfortable. So there are three sort of particular ways. So we're just going to quickly look at those. So first idea is to prepare lots of short activities of different content levels. Stick them on different pages on your bit paper, and so that you've got something that you know that they'll feel comfortable with. Then you might go on to another activity that you know that's just going to push them a bit. If they're too anxious, you can possibly stop the activity and drop back to one on another page that you know. So I really recommend lots of short activities, and I do that even with my older pupils as well. So we're not doing any one thing in any one way for very long, and that generally helps with the anxiety, keeping the anxiety down and keeping the attainment up, because they're able to start to succeed in these small manageable things. I also sometimes give them a choice in which one they do first. I might say, oh, we've got this, this and this, which one would you like to do first? Anything that makes them feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more in control can help keep down the anxiety level and make them feel more confident in what they're doing. So you may have come across diagnostic questions. This particular website is by Craig Barton, who obviously is a big cheese in the maths world. The good thing about multiple choice questions, whether they're from his site or whether they're from Padlet or another scheme, or whether you make your own, is the fact that multiple choice questions feel quite safe to a nervous child. And whether it's a recall type of question or a much more solve something or other, and they've got to actually do some working out and then get to an answer. If they can see that they're heading to one of the answers that's on there, one of the 4 answers, they will go, that's all right, I'm all right. And it's that kind of internal phew kind of moment. So multiple choice questions are really good for nervous children. So when I said at the beginning about don't give them a formal test, now in my breakout room, Hazel let me know that through the NTP, you have to give them a formal test at the beginning, which kind of broke my heart a little bit to hear, because I think that's just really sad, because that's not going to, personally, I don't think that really helps. But it's interesting because I'm not part of the NTP. I didn't know that was the case, that you were shackled to those to doing it in that way. So
it's just one of my agencies, Judy, not the other one. It's just one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the diagnostic questioning, generally there's one answer that is correct, one answer that's really not, and then generally 2 answers that have been got to by making a particular misconception. And if you do it slightly wrong in that way, you get to that answer. Slightly wrong in a different way, different misconception, you get to the other answer. So you can see so much about what they're thinking and how they're thinking about it by using this kind of questioning. And it's a double whammy, because it's really good for you for drilling down and finding out where their gaps are, where are their misconceptions, but it's also good for them because it feels quite safe. And yeah, so as I say, you can use this one, you can use all sorts of other ones as well. So another way of doing things in a safe way is to make cards on your bit paper. So this one on the left is just a screen grab from a very simple one, which is just a very simple recall one, where I've got 4 times table questions and I've got 4 answers, and I'd be asking them to pick up and match them up with on there. And as there are 4 questions, 4 answers, but actually they only have to do it 3 times, because by the final one they've got the 2 left. So that's quite nice. You get I sort of say that they get an extra question for free, they get an answer for free, but you can move them around and it feels quite safe. So that's like the very most basic. We've also got things like this from MathsPad, which is one of my best subscriptions. I love MathsPad. Slightly quirky way of doing some things, and they do lots of lovely puzzles and things which are not done in a sort of standardy worksheety kind of way. So this is a great one where they got to, I snipped this over into my bit paper, and so they can pick up the question, pick up the things and put them in. Now they might get to the end and then find that the last few cards don't fit, and this is where they need resilience. So this isn't something, I wouldn't do this very early on in teaching a child who first comes to me, because the resilience of getting to the bit and then the last ones won't fit, that will make them go, and that's a trigger. So but once they're much more confident, then I would be saying, let's try this, let's have a go at one of these puzzles. And generally the children really like those ones. But you could be having some questions where you've got if you're teaching older children, you could have a solving an equation, and several of those, and several x equals 1, x equals 3, whatever, and they've still got to match them up. They can be doing their own working with their pen on the bit paper. They could be using a normal pen and paper, but they're getting to the fact they can see that these answers match up. Just a bit of a safer way. And the other thing about being safe is, one of the things that the children really like about the bit paper and being able to write on the bit paper particularly, is the fact that in class, if they're writing with their pencil or in the senior and they've got to write in pen, they can be really anxious about making a mistake because they can't rub it out, and they can't find their rubber. They try to rub it, it smudges, all that kind of thing. Whereas on bit paper, you just press Z, bump, it's gone. And so it just feels really nice and safe. Okay, so we're going to go into our last breakout room. Could we go into a breakout room for a little bit shorter time, because we are pushed for time? And so we're just going to think about what safe things do you already do, and just share some good practice about things that you already do. So if we could just go in for 3 minutes, for example, that'd be brilliant. Thanks.
Hey, there's no one in my breakout room. I was just chilling on my own, like you.
Like that for.
I was in.
Yeah.
I'm in breakout room 3, I think, but there's no one in there. Thank you.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Julie and I were just having a natter, just
Great.
finalising last minute
Thanks, Jack.
details.
Okay, Judy.
Okay, is everyone back in and everything? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we are really short for time. I would have really liked to have been able to draw in. I mean, hopefully you've got something out of talking in your small groups. I would have liked to have been able to draw it in. We're just too rushed, really. So these are the main points, is that the how is, you need to reduce the anxiety first. Until you've reduced the anxiety, no real learning can take place. You need to do things safe and in a non-threatening way, so they feel comfortable. If you can keep doing all of these things, now whether they are neurodiverse or not, visual and practical teaching will still help them. And it's interesting, in the breakout room earlier on, Hazel and I, we were talking about how certain things help dyslexics, but they actually help everybody. And this is the case. The visual and practical teaching actually helps everyone, although you'd be doing it predominantly for neurodiverse children, but it really will help everyone. And try and have lots of short activities that you can nudge children in and out of into the growth zone. And the why is, it's just important because unless the anxiety is gone, the working memory isn't going to be working at the right speed, and really just try and help the children feel better about themselves, because in fact if they can feel better about themselves, then everything else, their confidence will come up, their attainment will come up. So really the best thing is to think that anyone can have maths anxiety. More of them they have than you think, because actually it'll only be the very severe cases that you might really know about. But actually there may be certain things that are making other children feel anxious about maths as well. And the big thing that for me is that if you teach them in the right way, with the right visual strategies, the right nurturing element, then even an anxious child can unlock their potential, and they can still do really well, and do well for them. And it's all about not comparing yourself to others. It's comparing yourself, you know, can I do, you know, for a child, can I do better today than I did yesterday? And can I be sort of, you know, improving slightly each time? So that's where we're heading for that. So thank you so much for joining me. I know we're just about on the time, so I just have to wrap that up really quickly. But thank you very much all for joining me, and anybody else who sees it on the replay. If you want to chat to me more, I'm going to be in the marketplace, and you can have a chat to me. You can get hold of me, and you can have you can book voice bicycles and things as well if you want to. So all of that is in the marketplace. But thank you very much everybody for joining me, and I'm sorry it's just such a whistle stop tour. But you know, there is so much more out there to learn about it, and if you know, if you're interested, you know, do have a look. Particularly have a look at that Pearson Pearson research, because that is just fantastically interesting. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, Judy,